Hello and welcome to the More to Life podcast. I'm your host, Elle Mace, and today I'm joined by my fabulous friend, Pippa. Hi, Pippa.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's so nice to have you here live in person in London.
I know, it's so nice here. I'm loving it.
It is so nice. And we have not seen each other for 2.5 years.
Which is crazy. Like, we're literally facing it off one of your children and when they were born.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've had another one after that is just wild.
I know, we were talking about, I'd had my second kid, I was still breastfeeding, I came up to London for the day,
brilliant.
And I had to pump during this business meeting. So we're all talking, all we can is, and I had this precious milk. And we went to dinner at this pizza restaurant and I asked them to put it in their fridge and I left without it. It was devastating.
You love the breast milk.
I was like, oh my gosh, that hard work. Anyway, Pippa, my dear, who are you? Tell us about yourself.
I am a dating and relationship coach. So I help successful single women to meet their match and to have an incredible, everlasting love story.
Amazing. And I know that you do this because of your own experience with being single and dating and finding the person of your dreams.
Yeah.
So just tell us a bit about that, you personally in your journey. And then I think what we would love to know is some tips and advice. So talk us through your transition.
Yeah. As young as I can remember, I was obsessed with boys and men. And all I wanted was a long-term loving relationship. And I really, really struggled. And throughout my teenage years, we've spoken about this a lot as well with what you do. I really struggled with body image. I really had a terrible relationship with myself. I struggled with disordered eating. But really, it all came from a place of just really critically low self-worth and this feeling, the sense that I was not enough as who I was, that I was incomplete in a way. And I think that really drove me to want love even more. And as a result, I ended up in really toxic relationships with men. So I didn't really have any relationships to know until I was about 18 years old. And I'd gone off to university and I'd started dating and had a bit more confidence. And I had never had sex before, but I suddenly got to university and I realised I'm actually a reasonably attractive person and started getting attention from men and really seeking that validation. And I ended up having short-term flings or long-term situationships. I think my longest one on record was 3 years where it was on and off, but it was literally off apart from once a year when it was on.
Yeah.
And then I was just being kind of strung along. And this went on for about 4 or 5 years. And maybe it wasn't even as long as that, maybe 3 or 4 years. And I realized all around me, my friends had relationships. All around me, it felt like it came very easily to other people. And I'm not one of those people who didn't want it. I really wanted it. And sometimes people just genuinely don't want a relationship. That wasn't me. I really did. And I think I got to a point after I left university and I started working in London where I realised I'm the problem. The words of Taylor Swift, it's me, I'm the problem. But I was the common denominator in the relationships that I was having. And I started reading The Secret, which I don't know if you've read it before.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that was one of the life-changing things I read. And I wouldn't say I agree with every single thing that was written in that book. But what it did was, as someone who had also studied psychology at university, it made me so aware of the shit I was saying to myself.
Yeah. Yes, you can swear. Definitely swear.
The negative thought patterns that I was having. Every time I looked at a couple, I was envious. Every time I looked in the mirror, I was critical of myself. I had no boundaries with men. I had no standards with men. If you were to give me a text, I thought that was very loving.
Oh my gosh, I'm so lucky.
I'm so lucky. He's actually replied to me. And there were also just months and months and months, years on end, when there was no interaction with men as well. I'd be on the apps, and one of my shameful things that I admit is I was on apps for 4 years and I went on one date off an app. And I met my partner in person, but so many of my clients meet their partners on apps, but I just had such a negative relationship with them as well, which we can definitely get into because I think it's such a hot topic at the moment. And then I really went all in on working on myself. I healed a lot of my self-worth issues. And I think this is the biggest thing that changed for me, is I realised that I was already deserving and worthy of love.
Yeah.
So what that meant is when I dated, if someone wanted to reject me, I was okay with it because my worth wasn't dependent on whether someone rejected me. And I got rejected. That 3-year situationship ended in me texting saying I wanted a long-term relationship and him saying, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And whilst I was sad because I really did like this person, I also was so relieved. It was the weirdest sense of relief I felt because it was like, oh my God, just put myself first. And I started as well to know what I wanted from a relationship. I journaled on a lot. I thought about it a lot. I thought, okay, instead of just wanting love, like, what is it that I actually want? Why do I want a relationship? Who do I want them to be? How do I want to feel? And I really started to work on some of the limiting beliefs I had. I had this sort of recurring thought that I was never going to meet someone. And I kept telling myself that. It came to me in a meditation that I was telling myself that, even though I was looking for love, I kept telling myself that. And that thought that came to me in a meditation made me realize, okay, I need to stop talking to myself like that. If you had a single friend who was looking for love, you would never be like, babe, why are you even trying? You're never going to meet someone.
Yes.
So why are you saying that to yourself? So I really had to work on the mindset piece. And then I took a risk. I took a leap of faith in my early 20s and I moved to New York City.
I can't believe we've not really ever spoken about this properly, but I know that this happened in your life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's pretty punchy.
Yeah. It was the best experience of my life. Like, I was doing an internship program, so I knew I was only going to be there for a year. And it meant that I was given this kind of whole new social group of people in their mid-20s to mid-30s sort of age, from the UK, but also from Europe and from all over the world, really. And that's how I met my partner, who is Scottish. I'm like, sometimes you've got to move to New York to meet a Scottish man. Like, it happens. And it meant I was introduced to a whole new circle because the mindset stuff's so important. The energetic piece was so important because I felt like I was so worthy and deserving of love. And I was honestly just having so much fun in New York and like really living. And I did have we can talk about more, but I did have like a shitty dating situationship about a month before I met my partner, someone I met in New York, because I was literally like, I'm going to meet them in New York. And I was telling everyone. Yeah. First guy comes along, I'm like, hey, done it, guys. Told you that I was going to meet someone in New York. Anyway, he ended up being like a bit of a dick. But it was, again, that feeling of, okay, fine. It was disappointing, but it wasn't this like heart-wrenching thing because I didn't make it mean that I was never going to meet someone. And after that point, actually, I was like, okay, I'm just going to prioritize fun, feeling my best, feeling confident. And honestly, like a month later, I knew who my partner was. We'd like had a couple of conversations. A month later, he asked me out and we started dating from there. And we got into a relationship and now it's like 5 years later. Yeah, so the rest is history, really. But I think that action piece, I don't want people to think, okay, you suddenly have to move countries to go meet your man. But it's like, what actual opportunities are you creating in your day-to-day life to meet new people? Because so often my clients go to the same workplace, go to the same gym or go to the same co-working place, but they're not doing anything new. They're not really using dating apps. And so they're not meeting people. So you can do all of the mindset energy work. And you have to do that because you can put yourself out there in the wrong energy and you will attract the wrong type of people. Yeah. But you also do, like, I do think that was pivotal for me, is like creating the opportunity to meet someone. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. Like, people say, I'm not meeting anyone, but they're doing the same things all the time. Yeah. And even if they are continuing to do the same things all the time, another thing that's been to people about is actually just look up and smile at people. Yeah. Like, if you are in a co-working space and you're saying there's no one there, are you actually like looking up from your desk? Are you actually going to talk to people?
Yeah.
Because we're actually in a kind of technically a co-working space here. And I've been watching people and everyone's head down in their laptops.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know, it's so true. And a little test I like to do with my clients to build up their confidence is just like experiment with smiling at someone and seeing their response. Because so often we're so scared to do it because what if it's cringy? What if it's embarrassing? What if they think, God, you're such a loser? But no one's actually thinking that. If some guy looked at me and smiled at me, I wouldn't think anything. I'd just probably think, oh, that's nice, smile back, and just continue on with my day. And obviously it's different because I'm in a relationship, but I can imagine if I was single, I would love that. It would be amazing. And there are going to be people who are in relationships, but I sometimes think we learn best from like modeling other people's behaviors and having a role model, so to speak. So do you have a friend or a sibling or anyone in your life who you know who's so just one of those people who's always meeting new people, or always having new opportunities? Like, what are they doing? Like, how are they creating that? Yeah. How are they being in situations? So much of it is just being really present. And I talk about this with attraction. Attraction is about being present. Like, that's why we call it presence. It's like you're in the room, you're in the space, or you're taking up space. And I think that's really important.
Energetics are everything, aren't they?
Yeah.
I've really noticed it more and more and more. Another thing with just energetics of connections, like, example, in your business, you might send out 20 emails to collab with 20 people. Some reply and some don't. And there's not really any reason why some have and some haven't. It's just they've had an energetic vibe about you.
Yeah.
You've had an energetic vibe about them. Whatever they've seen or read or whatever else spiritual, it's all energy.
Totally. And I also think it's important to say that, to me, the energy doesn't have to be totally high vibe and like loopy, crazy, excited, like oh my god, we're so vibing. Because honestly, if someone was like that to me, I'd be so overwhelmed. Yes. Like, I actually am like, I don't actually respond that well to that. I have to feel safe in someone's energy, because I think sometimes we can fall into the trap of thinking we have to be like happy 100% of the time. But actually, that's why I love saying, no, you just need to know you're worthy of love, because the woman who knows she's worthy of love, maybe she is feeling a bit like down that day, but she still sits in presence and confidence and is warm because she's not critical of herself for maybe not having the best day ever. So I do think the energy piece is so fascinating. Obviously, we're going to be like miserable 24/7. That's not.
Go on a date and be like, yes.
Yeah, but you think about it as well. I always say to like women, I'm like, okay, who do you want to go on a date with? Do you want to go on a date with a guy who hates being single, who hates dating apps, who hates like his life, but he just really wants to meet someone? No, you want to go on a date with a guy who's loving his life, who's feeling good about himself, and he just wants to bring someone in to share it with him. And that's the same that applies.
Yeah. And I guess that's what you're saying is authentic. If they're having a bit of a crappy day, that even if you're on a date with them, they can say, oof, I've had a bit of a crappy day.
Yeah.
You know, it's just them being real in that moment.
Yeah. And that's so endearing, right? Like, you can suddenly be like, oh, tell me more about it. Like, it's vulnerable. It's a moment of connection. Yeah. And so many women struggle. I mean, I really struggled with being vulnerable. Like, the thought of being rejected was so scary to me that I really struggled to even ever say anything that vulnerable about myself. I kind of just smiled and like nodded and like went along, which is not who I am. But it's vulnerable, and people connect to vulnerability. They don't connect to perfect. They don't connect to just, I'm good, I'm fine. They don't.
And if they are, not necessarily connecting, but if they are after that kind of perfect thing, then they're not after an authentic relationship.
No.
They're after something else, maybe a bit more short term, a bit more.
Yeah. It's like you're taking in a different need. But if you want to have a really long-term, healthy, extraordinary love story, you need someone who's going to at least be intrigued by all parts of you. I'm not saying like they will love you fully, but that doesn't mean they love your temper, for example, all the time. But it means that they accept it and they see that you're bigger than that, and they're intrigued by it, and they want to understand parts of you that maybe you don't feel are good enough, but you actually showing those people give them the opportunity to love it or to like it, to accept it.
Yeah, definitely. And as you're talking, I've just had this thought about Love Island, which in this present moment started about 2 weeks ago. I've been really reluctant to watch it, but my husband actually puts it on. I think it's his like get out from life.
Like unwind.
Yes. But it's so awful. And in terms of like that being such a huge program that people are watching around finding love, it's not promoting the best way to go about finding authentic relationships.
No, I think also the reason fundamentally these people want fame, don't they, rather than love. And it's very superficial as well. I've always enjoyed like Love Island as an observer, but I do think the messages we get around love are quite warped or are quite challenging these days. Like, I don't think it's easy necessarily to be a single woman who is really looking for love, because so many of the messages that we get, one of the messages we get is around what you need to look like, how you need to be, around aging is a big thing that comes up for my clients. Most of them are in their 30s and maybe want to have children one day, but they're constantly being bombarded about how they're like getting old and they're going to struggle with fertility. And I'm not saying any of this isn't true, but none of this helps to cultivate the energy of creating a romantic relationship. We could all get so bogged down on these things. And, you know, another big trend that I see at the moment as well is, I was on the Diary of CEO podcast. There's quite a few speakers talking about how successful women are really struggling to find love because they don't want to date down. Like, they don't want to date men who are less educated than them or less successful than them or shorter than them. But actually, we know that women are getting taller, they're getting more university degrees, things like that. And I feel like you could so easily get so bogged down in all the messages that you hear from media, from Love Island, from everything. But I always just want to say to my clients, like, if you truly want to have a loving and healthy relationship, you have that desire for a reason. You are meant to have it. I really believe that. I do believe that anybody can have this loving relationship, because look around you, look across the globe. There isn't a one size fits all. You see people who are, I mean, like overweight and they're in happy relationships. You see people who are really skinny and in happy relationships. You see people who are really rich and happy relationships. You see people who are really poor and happy relationships. Like, there isn't a one size fit all. So you have to decide if you're going to listen to all the external BS, or you're going to choose for yourself that I want this, I'm going to do what it takes to make it happen. And going back to kind of Love Island, is what they're presenting there is good TV. They want drama. They want it to be exciting. We want it to be exciting because no one wants to watch like the reality of a long-term relationship, like emptying the dishwasher together. Like, that's not,
boring.
That's not exciting. That doesn't make good TV. They want people to be not happily ever after. That being said, like, I do think there have been some happy relationships that have come from Love Island. I'm thinking of that Jamie and they've got 3 kids now. I follow her on Instagram.
Are you feeling tired, stressed out, and just like you can't catch a minute? Well, why don't you come along to our More to Life Spanish retreat this October the 4th to the 8th. We have a private luxury villa, a chef, lots and lots of workshops, yoga, hiking, fun, connections, friends, and excursions. Send a DM or an email to find out more.
Yeah, there's definitely a few that have come out of it.
But they've never been the ones really there for the show of it. Yeah. It's the authenticity piece that we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's what everyone has to remember. Like, it is a TV show that they need drama, they need all the excitement. And like you, we're watching it as more observers. And I really do find it so fascinating how sometimes the programme is still running with the language that they use and the way they allow people to be treated in there, especially when mental health is such a big thing now. But yeah, I think for the young people watching who are loving it, because I know the younger generation, under 21s, are loving Love Island, but just, it's not reality. It's not the way.
And I also think, like, I mean, this is like kind of bringing to another topic, but when you've done the inner healing work, what you find attractive changes so much. We just talk about the men. I feel like before I had really learned that I was worthy of love and I wanted a stable relationship, relationships I thought were exciting, unpredictable. I felt like they were almost like godly, you know, put them on this pedestal. They're really charismatic and charming. That's what I was really attracted to. As soon as I got to a point where actually I wanted love over excitement, and that's not to say love isn't exciting, it really is, but it was like a different high that I was reaching for from a relationship. Like, I was reaching for stability, consistency, someone who made loads of effort with me, someone who was kind to me, someone who was, passionate with me, but with a safety around it. Whereas I feel like often in Love Island, the guy who's like super attractive, or the girls are all falling for on the show, and maybe I don't see it as a viewer, I never really like that guy, but I usually like the one who's more like stable and sweet and secure, because I feel like that, maybe because I'm old now, but The guy that the girls are all going for is usually like this bit of the jack of the lad, like really funny, really confident, bit cheeky, like he's unpredictable. And that's what really, I think, reels them in. And that's like like attachment style 101. It's like someone drips feeds you attention, you go back to that because that hit feels way more attractive than someone who's consistently kind to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everything you're saying, there's always, before you talk about the external messages and stuff, it's always about just coming back to yourself, isn't it? What do I want? But then like actually accepting that what you want is what you can get. And that's not that like, I get what I want. It's, I want this and
I deserve it,
have it.
and I can have it.
Yeah.
And it might not take exactly the form that I'm thinking, but I'm not saying like the whole, I'm looking for a man in finance, trust fund, 6'5".
Oh no, what's this? Is this
oh my God, this real audio is going everywhere. It's like, I'm looking for a man in finance, trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes. We might be a few weeks out of date when this goes live. But it's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about these superficial things.
No.
We're saying like, if you want the real love, that's possible for you. If you want the real love from a guy who is really niche audience, and maybe you've got the wrong priorities. That's a question that people like ask me, like, am I too picky? And it's like, sometimes yes.
Yeah. Or not patient enough.
Yeah, not patient enough. Or you're picky in the wrong way.
Yeah.
You're picky in...
Because you don't like the shoes.
Yeah, because you don't like the shoes. Exactly.
Yeah.
But be more picky on, like, how he treats you. Or whether he messages you swiftly. Like, don't be picky in, like, okay, well, he wore this T-shirt that I didn't like.
Yeah.
That being said, I do believe you need to be physically attracted to your partner.
Oh, absolutely,
so I'm not saying that you go for a guy that you're not attracted to. But it's also about weaning yourself off what you find attractive. Because if I think about, like, my partner physically ticks all of my boxes, but I also found people attractive in the past who weren't physically really my type.
Love Island.
Bring us in. But they were giving me a dopamine hit because they were inconsistent. So just, in fact, I would just start there. Everyone who's looking for love, figure out how you want to be treated, how you want to feel in that relationship. Write it out. What do you want it to look like? What would a day look like in that relationship? What would you do for fun together? Like, how would he be with your family? Think about those sorts of things, because when you've got a clearer picture, it is so much easier to weed out the shit.
Yeah, and that clearer picture gives you that sense of hope, which there's nothing wrong with that hope, is there? And each day, if you do just sit there before you start your day and like feel into that emotion of walking to work with them or having breakfast with them, you just operate from that high vibration.
And the more you think about it, the naturally more you believe it as well, I think. I had never visualized a relationship that I wanted until I spoke about earlier. And I was visualizing hard. Like I was visualizing a lot. Like I was doing meditations and I was picturing it, and I was picturing us walking hand in hand down the Thames path in like London where I grew up. And now we do that almost every other day because of where we live. But I was picturing it, and the more I pictured it, the more I believed that it was possible. And the more you believe it's possible, the less you're going to settle for guys who aren't going to treat you well. And also, your whole energy changes. Like, and not just your energy, but your whole behavior changes. If I think I'm not going to meet someone, even though I want to meet someone, or if I think all the good men are gone, this is such a common one that my clients have.
Oh, there's no one out there.
There's no one out there. Like, I've raised my standards. I'm being great, but there is no one out there. There's not enough men to go around. There's this such belief. Okay, let's play this belief out. All the good men are gone. Let's just call it that. All the good men are gone. Okay, so how am I going to approach dating? Well, I'm probably not going to approach it with much enthusiasm because I'm already assuming that the guy that I'm going to date next is going to be a bit shit. So I might even avoid dating altogether. I might not go on dating apps. I might not bother talking to the cute guy next to me, because all the good men are gone. So I must assume that he's already in a relationship. You're closing off opportunities. Okay, so you get a date, but you're thinking all the good men are gone. You are just waiting for him to fail. And like, you're not excited about the dating experience. You're not enjoying it. You're not allowing yourself to like have pleasure in it. So the belief becomes your reality. It does. And what you focus on, you see. So if you're only seeing emotionally unavailable man, or like all the bad men, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And I really feel like the belief comes first, because when I started to actually think more highly of men, I started to notice, and my clients have said this to me, I'm thinking of one client in particular who had this belief strongly. She was like, honestly, like, there are so many secure, emotionally available men out there, because she suddenly decided to look for that instead of looking for all the bad men.
And it's staying in victim mentality, isn't it? Which is really a safe place for a lot of people. Oh, it's never going to happen to me. Like, you know, I attract all the bad ones. Of course, you're going to continue to do that if that's what you keep saying.
And also, like, ask yourself, what part do I have to play in that? Because we are a mirror to the relationships that we have. There's something in us that is attracting that person. Like, the same applies for business or anything. It's like, okay, so you keep attracting clients who aren't paying you on time. Like, what is it about you that is allowing that to be okay? You are the common denominator in your experiences in life. And whilst there is always going to be an element of chance, there's always going to be an element of luck in life, you can't control that. So there's no point being in that victim mindset. Rather think, okay, what can I control? What part did I play? How can I show up differently? Or how do I want to be in dating? Like, how do I want to feel on myself? How can I be more of that person? Because I'm telling you, like, if I had not taken responsibility when I did, I would still be single to this day. Like, I really would be single, and I'd be dating guys who did not respect or like me genuinely. And I say this even with my partner, who is very secure man, and he had a history of relationships which I hadn't had, healthy relationships. I always say to him, I honestly think if we had met 4 years earlier, we would never have been in a relationship. It wasn't just luck, it was who I was, because I wasn't a match for a long-term healthy relationship.
No, definitely. Be do have.
Yeah,
like,
be do have.
Absolutely embody it. You have to embody it. We say this with everything, going back to the kind of like the food in the body. You say, I'll do it when I'm lost this weight or etc. But like, get your life as fantastic as you possibly can with yourself and only yourself. And then someone can come in.
Yeah.
You don't need someone to fix your life.
No. And do you want to be with someone who wants you to fix their life? Probably not.
No way.
So why would you want that from someone else? And that doesn't mean, I also think it's important to caveat, like, you're not going to be 100% perfect and 100% healed. And actually your relationship, when I was dating my partner, I was still anxious at times. Like, I wasn't 100% healed. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't the cool chick 24/7. Also, I mean, the cool chick's got her own issues, like no boundaries.
Yeah. I haven't heard the word chick for so long. I love that.
I had enough that my relationship has also been one of the most healing experiences I've ever had. So you just need to get to a place where you're enough that you're a match for that relationship, but also allow that relationship to be a healer for you too. But not saving you. This is really important, because no one can save you apart from you. And think about who you're going to attract if you go in with that mentality versus you go into the mentality of, my life is already amazing, I'm looking for someone to add to it.
Yeah, fantastic. I absolutely love that. Well, Pippa, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Where can everyone find you?
Thank you. Instagram's the best place at @IamPippaMay_. So yeah, just find me there.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
and
much.
let's not leave it 2.5 years that I next see you.
I know. Definitely not. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed listening to this episode, then please head over to give us a rating. We would really, really appreciate that. And as a return, send us a screenshot of your rating and we will send you a free 45-minute hypnosis for absolute daily motivation. This is a must listen to every day in order to create your best future self.